morning, afternoon. What are we now? Afternoon. Just tidy this up onto there. There we go. Good morning. It is Monday, the 10th of November, and we are going to be running through the latest AI news and updates, covering what's been happening in the world of artificial intelligence over the weekend and settling in for the rest of the week. There is a rumor, again, we've been over this multiple times, that we are getting Gemini 3, the new model from Google, this week, but we've said this multiple times before, so I'm, for one, not going to believe it until we actually get Gemini. So let's have a look at what is real and what has been coming down the pipeline. Actually, starting with Google, we have a new Nano Banana, so Nano Banana 2. It's not fully released yet, but people have started to get access and to generate their own images with it, and so far it is extremely good. So Nano Banana had a bit of a moment, it must have been 2 months ago or so, and it actually rocketed Google Gemini to the top of the App Store. Until then, nobody was really using Gemini, which is a shame because it's a good model, but Nano Banana came packed in with the Gemini app, and Nano Banana still probably is one of the best image generation models, and now Nano Banana version 2 is on its way. People have been producing lots of problematic images, I'll say that, including Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump and P. Diddy at a party, and it's able to do a very good and very worryingly accurate deepfakes. However, that is the kind of thing that's going to have the guardrails put on, so don't expect that at launch. What it has been able to do, and this is a test that always comes up with image generation, is it can finally generate an image of a glass of red wine full to the brim. This has been kind of a sense check with our visual models for the last couple of years, because no image model was able to generate that because they didn't really have enough images of fully filled up to the brim glasses of wine. So you'd say, give me a glass of wine full to the brim, and it would always give you half full, which is what a wine glass normally looks like. The other one is clocks. So generally, now, let me get this right. Generally, when you ask an AI image maker to create an image of a clock, it will generally be 10 past 10. So the hands will always be at this kind of angle. And if you specified, no, make the clock set to 3:30 p.m., it would not be able to do that. It would always end up defaulting to 10 past 10, always. Somebody has generated an image of 11:15 on the clock and a wine glass filled to the top in the same image, and Nano Banana 2 has completely smashed that test. Now, whether or not this has been hard coded in, because it's something that is always tested when a new image model comes around, we don't know yet. We'll be able to dig around once it's released fully, but it looks good. It looks like a good model, even better than Nano Banana, and it should be coming out and more widely released in the next week or so. So pretty excited about that. I don't do much AI imagery or AI art. It's not really what I use it for. But I know for people who do use these models, this will be a very exciting update. I'm going to hop over to some questions. Actually, I'm going to leave that up and go to there. Good morning. Sorry, it's not morning. I'm very late today. No questions, no problem. Hi Lyra, how are you? Cool. So I'm going to hop over to, what have we got? We've got Nano Banana 2. I've got this tweet from Ethan Mollick. If you don't follow Ethan Mollick, I highly recommend you do. He's on Twitter and LinkedIn for the most part. He also wrote the excellent book Co-Intelligence. There are not many good books about AI because AI moves so quickly that by the time you write and publish a book, it tends to be fully out of date. But Co-Intelligence is one that is genuinely excellent, and I highly recommend you read it. It's about our relationship with artificial intelligence. So Ethan Mollick put out a tweet, I think this was yesterday, kind of saying, I keep warning that so many of our systems, so our governmental, our societal systems, are still built around the assumption that quality writing and analysis are costly and therefore meaningful signals. our systems are very much not ready for the revelation that this is no longer true, as this planning objection AI shows. And he's looking at an example of a tool which allows you to object to your neighbors or to developers in your area building. So let's say my neighbor wanted to put an extension on his house. I could put in an objection and say, no, I don't want you to do that. Generally, or before now, it would take me time, and I'd have to draft it. I might even have to go to a solicitor or an expert who can help me to do this in order to put forward my case and to block the development. Now we can do this with AI. The point that Ethan is making, and the important point, and this is not about planning permission, this is about all of our governmental systems. The point is that we can now generate applications, submissions, complaints, rebuttals, God, even court cases much more easily than we could before, which allows us to flood these systems with our writing and with our objections and with our reports. That means that these systems, which are already kind of on the edge and they're already very slow, like the planning system in the UK, will grind to an absolute halt because we are able to just throw so much volume at them now. So this is just one example. It's called objector.ai. Very clever business model. How much do they charge? £45, where you basically put in the information of the case that you want to object to, and it will prepare a document for you that you can then submit to the planning authority in your particular area. 45 quid, and the AI will just do it in the background. Very, very simple. I built something similar like this in public. I built this on one of my live streams, which contests parking tickets. So it allows you to contest private and council parking tickets. And again, super, super simple. You just upload the details. You can take a photo of the ticket, upload the details, give it a few kind of pieces of information, and then it generates a letter for you that you can then send to the authority. So tools like this, like the one that I built, which contests parking tickets, and objector.ai and all of these other tools, this means that our current governmental and our societal systems will basically collapse under the weight of us being able to generate complaints and rebuttals very, very easily and very, very cost effectively. Also, if you want to set up a business, this is something that you can do. You can build a tool that allows people to object or to push back on parking tickets or whatever it is. If you have an expertise and you help people do that kind of thing normally, build a tool and you can make some good money doing this. Is there an AI agent for finding scholarships? That actually reminds me of somebody that I knew. She wasn't in AI specifically. She was in the newsletter world, and she was pulling together all of the scholarships. Her focus was female and kind of people from minorities. She was pulling together very specific scholarships, but she was doing it by hand. You could do it with an agent. What I would do, you would just use either ChatGPT or Claude, but you set it into deep research mode, and then ideally you'd run that on a consistent basis in order to capture all the new ones. So I would just say, I mean, we can try doing Claude. You would feed in what kind of scholarships you want to get and then put it into deep research mode. What's happening here? So we have research mode and extended thinking. And then if you can use Opus, great, but Sonnet 4.5 would be fine. And then you tell it what kind of scholarships you're looking for, where you are, what kind of dates they need to be, and then just set it off to go and find it. It's not agentic so much as it would be research. If you wanted an agent to fill out scholarships, that would be the next level. I wonder if there is a scholarship AI. There must be. Okay, that's a business for somebody to set up. Let's see if scholarship.ai is available. Grab it. Scholarship, I doubt it will be. Scholarship.ai is not available. Find scholarship.ai is available. So that's actually quite a good business that you could help, where you just give people the ability to fill in the information about what kind of scholarship they're looking for, their eligibility, and then you have in the back end an extended thinking model that goes off and finds all of these. Then you'd have a database which has collects all of the different queries that people put in, so you can cache them and very quickly serve them up as well. There's a lot of businesses that can be made with AI. This is a problem that I have nowadays. Is like, oh, I could build this, I could build that, I could, which is not good when you need to focus. So I don't know if there's a specific AI for finding scholarships, but you could build one, or you could use deep research mode. I feel there isn't anything that does all well at the moment. Every platform has pluses and negatives. Oh, I used Nano Banana for image generation with JSON, yes, from ChatGPT, and then put it in Grok to create the videos. Yeah, Grok Imagine is very good. You're saying there isn't anything that does it all well at the moment. I think that's fine though. That's what you're bringing to the table, is the ability to manage all of these tools together. You might want to look at Adobe. They, over the last week, launched a bunch of new stuff because they had their conference. I've forgotten what it's called. Adobe Imagine or Adobe Summit. No, what's it called? Adobe Max. So they had Adobe. I never know how to say it. And I'm sure people are going to be yelling at me in the comments whenever I say. They had a conference last week and they've released a whole bunch of new features, and I think they have free image generation up until December, so you might want to try it out. They have Firefly, and what's quite good about their package is it does have all of the different tools together. Whether or not it's as good as Nano Banana is debatable. I mean, it's kind of subjective. Probably not as good as Nano Banana 2, which we just covered, which is a problem because they've just had this big conference and showed people all their wonderful new toys, and if Nano Banana 2 comes out and blows them out of the water, that must be quite upsetting. Hey Diona, how are you? It must be early where you are, no? There isn't much news today. Let's look at, so Greg Eisenberg is on Twitter. He's a entrepreneur, creator. He talks about the AI economy, and he's done a rundown of a new McKinsey report. So McKinsey are the consulting agency. We've talked about consultants and what's happening with artificial intelligence. I personally feel that AI is an existential threat to consulting, but what's happening is a lot of the consulting companies are pivoting into AI because I think they realize this is a problem. We need to be ahead of it, because if people are going to AI for consulting and advisory, they're not coming to us. So we need to at least be providing these services. So they've produced a report, a very pretty report, which I'm sure is using a lot of bandwidth, on how organizations are using artificial intelligence. We've had a few reports like this over the last year. Probably the most famous was the MIT Nanda report, which showed that, or purported to show that 95% of AI projects fail. However, and I've covered this a few times, their methodology was not very sound. They were only looking at flagship projects, so things that were coming from top down, from the leadership, and were being kind of forced into workflows. Whereas what the interesting finding was that many people, staff members, were using AI on a daily basis and finding productivity gains, but that was not included. So grassroots usage of people fitting AI into their existing workflows, that was ignored by the MIT study. We had another study 2 weeks ago from Wharton, which suggested that there are ROI returns, and now we have this McKinsey report. So what I'll do is I'll put the full report, a direct link into the newsletter tomorrow, so you can go through it. But I'm just going to give Greg Eisenberg's summary here, just for speed. Otherwise, we'll go down a rabbit hole and be looking at graphs. So 90% of companies use AI, but 67% are still stuck in pilot mode. That doesn't surprise me. Corporate AI theatre is alive and well. So I feel this whenever I go into businesses. A lot of the time, the CEOs or the executives, they want to do AI. They don't really know what that means. It's something that all the other companies are doing and all the other executive corporate buddies are doing. So it's something they feel they should be doing, but there's not necessarily an understanding of what that means on a concrete basis. 62% of organizations are experimenting with AI agents. 23% are scaling AI agents. Most are in tech and healthcare. That is not that surprising. The impact gap is massive. 64% say AI helps innovation, but only 39% are seeing real EBIT gains. I would argue here against Greg. I would say that 40% showing positive EBIT gains, so earnings before before interest and tax. The fact that 40% of them are seeing return on investment basically is quite high. Remember, this is a new technology, and generally when we put new technology into an organization, there's going to be a learning phase and money will be wasted. So the fact that 40% of them are already seeing gains in their earnings is kind of impressive. The high performers, the top 6, think bigger. They rebuild workflows, nice. Set growth goals and invest real budgets, not just proof of concepts. So this is the big transition that a lot of organizations need to make, and a lot of them don't want to go down this road, is realizing that when you have AI, you're not just clumping it onto your existing operations. You can revolutionize, you can transform what it is your business does. And that requires really going back to the drawing board and looking at how AI can be integrated if you were to rebuild from the beginning. This is often a unpleasant and difficult conversation within organizations, because they'll realize a lot of the stuff they do isn't particularly valuable, or can be done by AI very quickly. So it's a kind of soul searching for an organization, realizing that, oh God, we might be in trouble if this stuff takes over. So it's a choice of whether you allow competitors and new people coming in and using AI, you allow them to sweep over you, or you recognize AI is going to be a big impactful development and you start to rebuild your organization. So Google, for example, are primarily an advertising company. They make 70-80% of their revenues from advertising. They're not really a tech company, they're an ad company. That's where the cash comes from. They are realizing that their search monopoly and the search engine advertising is at risk, and it's going to be eroded because people are moving to generative AI instead of search as a way of accessing information. So Google have realized, oh God, we need to get on board with this. We need to be at the forefront of AI. If we're gonna lose the search revenue, we may as well cannibalize it ourselves. So at least we are the ones who are going to be doing well in the new world. That requires a lot of bravery from an organization. A lot of organizations would rather just pretend this isn't happening, and will sadly become irrelevant over the next few years. So leaders who own AI personally are 3% more likely to scale it. Makes sense. So people who are using AI on a daily basis realize how useful it is. The winners use AI to transform how work gets done, not just speed it up. So changing, again, rebuilding what the work is, what the value is that the corporation is providing, and working out how AI fits in that. So it's not just about doing the same thing that they were doing before, faster and more efficiently. It's about changing what the actual process is. Workforce impact is foggy. 32% of companies expect cuts, 13% expect growth. Everyone else is just guessing. I would argue that everybody is just guessing. I think Greg is being too generous here. I don't think anyone knows what's going on. So anyone who says they do is, well, either stupid or they're lying. So AI adoption is mainstream, but true transformation hasn't started. Early days, 100% agree. This stuff is still early. And if you're watching a stream like this, if you are, following me on social media or YouTube or wherever you're watching this right now, if you're reading my newsletter, that tells me that you are in like the 0.5% of people who are actually really paying attention to this stuff and keeping up to date with it. That is rare. It might not seem like that to you because you are surrounded by other people who are interested in this, and you follow people online and you have these kind of discussions. But we're in this little bubble of people who really actually pay attention. Most people are not. And the more organizations that I go and train, I go and work with and give workshops, the more that is apparent that this stuff is still very early. People are at least using ChatGPT now. that's kind of it. So it's very early. I will put this full report, the McKinsey report, into the newsletter. The newsletter is totally free, and you can find it in the link below this video, wherever you're watching this right now. And you can grab that, or you can go to aiwithkylegood.com and then follow the button to the newsletter, and you can subscribe there. Again, totally free. And while you're doing that, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. We are slowly working our way towards 10,000 followers. I'm on the wrong channel. That says 1 subscriber. That would be very upsetting. Aiming for 10,000 before the end of the year. That is the goal at the moment. Okay, I've covered most of the news items today because there weren't very many. Let me see if there's any questions. Joanne says, thanks Kyle, you're one of my trusted sources. Thank you, Joanne. That's very kind of you. Just scroll back and have a look at questions. Hey Diona. If you guys aren't following Diona, make sure you are. Everyone here on TikTok. Diona does really good content on vibe coding. She also knows a lot more about coding than me, so whenever I run into a technical problem, she's my go-to. Like, hey Diona, how do I do this? Much smarter than me, so make sure you're following her with regard to vibe coding in particular. Like, really good stuff. There is one thing I wanted to look at. This isn't really news, but I thought an interesting piece. It's from The Cut, and it's entitled Killjoy in the Machine. Why do so many people use AI to cheat at fun? So I was at a board game meetup yesterday. I am that cool. I was playing board games on my Sunday, and we're playing a game called Codenames. We have to give clues, and you have to use lateral thinking to connect words together. It doesn't really matter. And somebody brought up the idea of, oh, we could use ChatGPT to help us give clues. And they were joking. And it would have been a very interesting way to see whether AI can play the game. It can do lateral thinking and connect up concepts. But I then read this article about people who actually use AI in things like pub quizzes and to help them with their crosswords. I know that I have used it on Wordle once, mainly to see if it could work or not. But apparently this is a growing phenomenon. I don't think there's much study here, but it's about how people are using ChatGPT to look up and to help them, not necessarily for studying or for work, but in recreational settings. So I will put this article in because it's an interesting think piece, but here we go. Recently, Betty, a Wisconsin art school student who works at a local escape room, monitored a group of 20-somethings as they made their way through a spy-themed experience. About 3/4 of the way in, the players were stumped. They stood in front of a painting, magnet in hand. To solve the final puzzle and escape, they had to look behind the painting, where they'd find a diagram that would lead them to a nearby locker, which they could then unlock using the magnet. One of the players pulled out her phone, Betty recalls, and was like, I'm just going to ask ChatGPT how to do this. The rest of the team was unfazed. Are you serious, Betty thought. It's over $100 for a group that big. So you're spending a lot of money to go to this place where the entire point of going there is try doing these things on your own. It's Betty's job to offer clues and to help players through a game, and unlike ChatGPT, she's seen the room with her own eyes. Yeah, I don't know why they think ChatGPT would know the answer. The group was asking it what to do with the magnet, which is really weird because you'd think they'd be able to deduce that, Betty continued. Unsurprisingly, ChatGPT's response proved useless, and the team did not end up escaping in time. So this article, again, I'll put it in the newsletter, I think it's interesting because it challenges what we use AI for on a daily basis. Because I think AI, personally, I find it very useful for being more productive. I am probably 10 times more productive now that I use AI on most of my tasks. I wouldn't think to use it for recreational activities, though, to help me to do those recreational activities faster. That just seems like such a bizarre use, but this is apparently what's happening in, at least in this one case, younger generations. So it's one thing to use ChatGPT to cheat at things you'd rather not do, homework, work, or when it involves a reward like a good grade or a cash prize. but to cheat your way through leisure activities, especially ones you pay to do. As one TikTok user puts it, it's like going into a corn maze and just wanting a straight line to the end. So there is this question, is AI making us lazy? Because it is so productive and so useful. And these are questions that are now coming up, which we need to grapple with. Because for the last couple of years, the big debate was, oh, AI is not very good. And that was the main criticism that was levied at AI. It creates trash writing. The photos have 6 fingers. It can't count the R's in strawberry, etc., etc., etc. These were the arguments that were levied against AI. And for a couple of years, they were valid. Yeah, there were a lot of problems with artificial intelligence. There still are. There are still hallucinations. There are still artifacts. There are still problems. But as you use it more, you kind of learn your way around that. However, the discourse against artificial intelligence is moving away from that now because the AIs have got really good. And I think even the detractors, the people who want nothing to do with AI, have realized this. And it takes us from laughing at AI to being scared of AI and asking questions about good questions about the environment, energy usage, what's it going to do to our brains, what's it going to do to young people who are growing up and going through school with this. It's a big question. I saw another tweet the other day, and it was about someone who was in the library at Harvard, and they looked around and all the students were on ChatGPT. So they have their textbooks, they were doing their work, like the studying, but they were all on ChatGPT. And this is Harvard. These are creme de la creme. You know, the top students are using ChatGPT to study, write essays. It's part of their learning process now, and we need to, as a society, work out what that means moving forward and whether that is going to be an issue. So again, I will put this article. It's not a study. It's not scientific. I just think it raises some interesting questions about what we should and what we shouldn't use AI for, and we're all going to have very different answers to that, but I think it's important for us to actually engage with that question. Hey Davey, good morning, or good afternoon even. Just scrolling back through the questions. As always, regretting wearing a white t-shirt because all the writing is white and I can't see anything. I work at a uni. We do need to realise that students are using it and how, yeah, I think we can't ignore that anymore. It is being used by everybody. And to deny that is not going to work. So we need to work out what that looks like in education. There's a great book by Sal Khan, the guy who founded the Khan Academy, and the book is called, I have to look it up because I always get it wrong, Empires. That's not him, that's a different Salman Khan. Brave New Words. Brave New Words is a book about artificial intelligence in education, and he's a lot more positive. Well, he talks about how we need to navigate this, but he thinks if we can come through this positively, we can give every kid, every student, I mean every adult as well, on Earth a personalised tutor, a one-to-one tutor. And having a tutor previously was for only the well-off people, because to hire somebody who knows your learning needs and to sit with you and work through material costs a lot of money, doing it one-on-one. So AI could allow us to do that, which would be phenomenal, but it's up to us to decide to use AI in that way. So we can either use AI to do the work for us, but then we rob ourselves of the learning experience, or we can use AI to supplement our learning and to test us and to guide us and to give us, kind of keep us always on the edge of what we know, so we continue to improve and increase our knowledge. But it's kind of up to us how we use AI. And humans, we're good at a lot of things, but we're also very lazy, and we would default to the laziest approach. And if that is, hey, this AI can write a letter, an essay for me, and I can go to the pub, then the AI is going to be writing that that email for me, or that essay for me, unfortunately. DSA, what's DSA? All those on DSA, it's great for disabled students. This is my area in work. What's DSA? Sorry, I don't know the Disabled Students Allowance. Okay. Yeah, I mean, there are such great uses of it. It's just because it's a tool, it can be used for multiple different uses, and it's up to us as a society and individuals to work out what are the good and what are the bad uses. 100%. Okay, I don't have any other news articles today. What do I have? No, nothing particularly large. So I'm going to finish up the live stream. Thank you for your questions today. Make sure you are subscribed to the newsletter. It is, again, totally free, and you'll find it in a link below this video or somewhere on my social profile. Or head to aiwithkyle.com. There's also a bunch of tools on that page, which I always forget to talk about, like which AI business should you start, AI workshop builder, 90-day sprint planner, etc. Lots of different tools I built there, so make sure you check it out. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. We are working our way to 10,000 subscribers, and it is a lot of work, so that would be really helpful. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Tomorrow, Tuesday, I'll be back at the normal time around 10 a.m. I was very, very late today. No excuses, apologies for that. But I'm glad to see that we have some of our American friends who are able to see it as well. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow.